All right, we're going to mix things up a little bit now and allow each of the candidates to ask a question of another candidate. The questions must be directed to a single candidate, and that person will have 90 seconds to respond, and we'll begin with Sharon Hurd.
Okay, let me see. Matt, tell me what it is that you would do and be different from all of your predecessors who have been white men just like you, to reach all of the forgotten and neglected communities.
Sure. Well, there was one mayor that was not a white man, a white woman, but it is a great question, and it is an important question. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking a lot about the diversity of this city, and it is absolutely vital that we have a city administration that reflects the beautiful diversity of this city. So I commit as mayor that my administration will reflect the diversity of this city in all the ways: gender, racial, geographic diversity, ethnic diversity, political diversity, because folks should feel connected to the administration. And you are right, for far too long, the folks who've been mayor have come from one particular part of our city, and it should reflect the diversity. I think the diversity on the stage is actually a wonderful thing. The gender and racial diversity on the stage does not fully reflect the city, but in many ways it's half women, 25% black, roughly the breakdown of our city. And I think that's a great thing for our city to show the progress that we've made. But we have a long way to go. And I commit, as mayor, to have the kind of staff that's in touch with the community. Because if you aren't listening to people, then you can't truly serve them.
Thank you.
And I believe in servant leadership.
Just a note on the time, you will have 90 seconds for the answer. So the clock started a little early there, so I gave you I gave you a full 90 seconds. I appreciate it. All right, we'll go next to Jim Gingrich.
So I was recently approached by advocates for the new NASCAR Speedway and told that if I don't change my position on the Speedway, I would be personally and politically attacked publicly. I'm actually going to make it easy. I would just ask everyone here to raise their hand if they have ever had a special interest threaten them if they did not change their position on an issue. Just raise your hand.
Any more specifics you want to offer?
I'm happy if anybody raises their hand.
Didn't you say individually?
Yeah, it should be. So
that's not the rule, Jim.
That's your question?
That is my question.
And I've been threatened, but not by a special interest group.
We will move on. Vivian Wilhoit, go ahead.
Okay, so asking a question. Alice Rowley. So you said in one of the debates, kind of made me cringe a little bit. You stated that if you were mayor, you would not allow the Metro Courthouse to be a place to protest. So tell me, how are you going to be mayor and diminish a person's First Amendment right to freedom of speech?
Well, that's a great question, and I don't think that I said that. I think what I said is that in my city hall, we won't have a pro-life rally or a pro-choice rally, meaning I will not nationalize City Hall, because when we have nationalized City Hall, it's hurt Nashvillians. So if someone else wants to have a pro-life or a pro-choice rally, that's great. But as the mayor, when I received a few weeks ago the Planned Parenthood endorsement questionnaire, the questionnaire led with, this is a state legislative questionnaire. And so I actually wrote back that it was inappropriate for an individual seeking the office of mayor to ask for an endorsement for a group that is fully focused on state and federal issues. The same way, if the National Right to Life wrote me and asked me to fill out a questionnaire, I would answer their question in the same way. I believe in principled neutrality, and I believe that if we want our city to be a welcoming place, We cannot start to pick and choose if the NRA is allowed to come here, which we allowed them to come here a few years ago, or if the National Republican Convention, we sent them a letter saying they're not allowed to come. So what I'm saying is that as mayor, we will not operate in these national political interests. We will not use City Hall as a backdrop. We will care less about the color that the bridge is and more about are the potholes on the bridge filled. We will care more about having a pro-first graders reading rally. We will care more about a pro-supporting our infrastructure rally and less about national political issues.
Next is Jeff Yarborough.
Okay, so my question's for Matt. Your campaign has talked a lot about its success in fundraising, but there is, I'm looking at an invitation where you went down to Texas and had an event there that was hosted by Ted Cruz's treasurer. And I've seen your explanation out there that there's a family connection. But like, I think you are smart enough to know that people are going to know Ted Cruz's treasurer in Texas. I just want you to give it a chance to actually fully explain that.
Sure. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. So the event that you're talking about was a fundraising event that my cousin and her husband and two colleagues of my wife hosted in Austin, a place where my mother, who's here, hey Mom, went to college, and my grandmother went to college. I've got family in Austin, and it was wonderful to get back and see family and be connected with them. Brad, my cousin's husband, and I don't always agree politically. In fact, frequently we don't. But he's family, and I love Brad. And to the point more broadly, I think in every one of the forums we've had, we've been asked, what are you going to be able to do to extend a hand across the aisle and be able to build better relationships with the state? Now, I think that this is a great example. My Democratic bona fides are the best of, I think, any of the candidates up here. Actually, technically, the scores on Vote Builder and the other platforms, and my donation history is clear. My parents' work in the community is clear. So I don't think that's in question. I think it's fantastic that someone with that track record, voting record, is able to attract donations. By the way, in a nonpartisan race, speaks to an ability, as I did when I was in the mayor's office and at MDHA, to extend a hand and work productively in nonpartisan ways with folks from across the aisle. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Alice Rowley.
Great. Yeah, well, I also have a question for Matt. I guess he's on the hot seat today. I was so delighted, Matt, to receive your subscription to my campaign newsletter recently that I took your email address and I looked over the 5,000 names who had signed up for the citizens petition to stop the development at Fort Negley under the previous mayor who you worked for. So I wanted to know how you approached that plan to put 27 buildings on protected historic public parkland, and if you would consider those types of backdoor deals in your administration.
So I'm not sure I exactly followed the question, but I think you were saying, would I support something like the redevelopment of Fort Negley? Is that the question?
No, you didn't support
backdoor deals.
stopping
Sure.
it. You didn't
Sure.
support stopping
I mean, look, I think that Fort Negley is an absolutely vital asset in our city, and one that I've actually spoken about in my policy books that I've released online, talked about the importance of investing in Fort Negley and in open space. It had been neglected by our city for far too long, and I think it is a wonderful thing. I think it is unfortunate that now, 4 years after that, anyone who drives past Fort Negley sees that it's still behind a chain link fence with weeds growing up, and I am very hopeful. And as mayor, I commit to make sure that it is restored and held up as a beautiful place that folks can come and enjoy. Now, I am, to your question, I guess, not in favor of backdoor deals. I'm in favor of everything having transparency and being talked about. I commit to that as mayor, and I think it is absolutely important to show the historical significance of our city and to hold up the folks who actually built the city in the first place. And in the example of Fort Negley, that includes slaves and former slaves who had been captured, who were the ones who actually built that and then helped free our country in the Civil War, and I absolutely will hold that up in the highest regard. So thank you for asking that question.
When you had the chance to sign the petition, you didn't.
That's time.
Yeah.
We'll have to, another moment. We have to move on.
Lots of petitions I don't sign. I'm sorry I missed that.
We are tight on time, and audience, please, if you could just refrain from comments, we'd appreciate it. We said we'd mix things up. Next is Freddie O'Connell.
Great, thanks, Rory. It clearly makes for good TV to ask these challenge questions, but we're also trying to elect a mayor up here. I've had the good fortune of working with literally all of the candidates on the stage. I know their commitments to the city, and I don't think 90 seconds from anybody is going to help us do better than our campaigns are doing, and I'm going to yield my time. I know we're tight. Thanks.
Okay. Heidi Campbell.
Yeah, so I would like to ask a question of my colleague Vivian, who answered a Q&A recently that I saw, where you talked about how too many underserved neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. And I really, just like in the last forum when I asked Councilwoman Hurt about her work in HIV, this is a very interesting topic to me and near and dear to my heart, and something that I worked on in the city of Oak Hill in terms of sidewalks. And I'd love to know, what your thoughts are on that.
Sure. The city of Nashville, Davidson County, when I served as a two-term council person, if we could have paid for sidewalks, we would have not gotten them. Because it was just petty politics that was being played from time to time, kicking the can down the road over and over again. So, Senator Campbell, yes, I believe that we should be able to provide sidewalks, even in light of the recent court decision. It's all about budgeting, it's all about being intentional, and it's all about putting people first.
Finally, Matt Wiltshire.
Great. After the way this is going, I feel like I should ask myself a question, but I will follow the rules. And my question is for Ms. Rowley. So you have spoken, I think, in each of our forums, including here today, about the amount of debt that the city has, and that it's terrible, the amount of debt that the city has. As I'm sure you know, we have a AA bond rating, and the debt that the city has is actually money that was incurred to build capital assets, to build schools, to build sidewalks, to pave streets, to fix stormwater. And so my question for you is, what school would you not have built? What sidewalk would you not have constructed? And what street would you not have paved in order to not have the debt that the city has today?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Matt. We do today, in our city's budget that was just passed, have $413 million in debt. The entire state of Tennessee combined for the same period of time has $342 million in debt. And Matt is correct that our bond rating is a reflection of the market's belief that we can raise your taxes. It is a belief that we can, and that everyone else on this stage will, raise your taxes in this next term to be able to meet that bond obligation. So the broader question is, how is governing from a different approach, an approach that I have come from, and why our state is actually the lowest debt state in the country? And that is first that we had always taken, beginning in 1978, a pay-as-you-go approach to how we funded roads and how we funded schools. So it is an excellent question to say, if we continue doing what we've done for the last 20 years and continue to elect people that take a tax and spend, kick the can down the road, looking consistently at the lines, our population looks like this, our spending looks like this, and our revenues look like this. And if we continue to do that, you will not be able to spend any money on the things that a lot of people are talking about wanting to spend money on.
Right. I didn't hear an answer.
You did hear an answer. It is a different approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got to move on.
Right. We'll come back to regular